Hey Kevin, it's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Well, and you, Elisha, thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Beautiful. Same here, same here. Thank you so very much for honoring the invite. And you see, Kevin, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two main things. And I do this so often because I feel like it is important. So firstly, Kevin, I want to say thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, Kevin, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. I just walked past it. But you see, just recently, Kevin, I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, I tell you. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and I got the urge to, move close to the tree, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. You see, not just mangoes, but ripe mangoes. It was a beautiful moment that day. I was so, so excited. Now, my point is the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are today. That alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request from me to be on the show. Because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your work, your philosophy, and the impact it is having. It's amazing, I tell you. So thank you for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing I could do about it. Thank you so very much, man.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Beautiful. Excuse me. So let's get started. I am quite excited to have Kevin on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge. Second, I believe in order for one to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, Kevin, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge, and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Kevin on the show is for the sake of the listeners. You see, Kevin, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, very important information, of which I'm totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, Kevin, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. We're just so curious right now. We want to know how Kevin got here. Then, afterwards, I've got some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Kevin, over to you.
Sorry, yeah, I think my sound isn't on yet. All right, can you hear me now?
Mhm.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
So more about me is kevinbritz.com. You can find out more information there, but it's really about where personal power meets transformation in people, teams, and organizations. And very often, we often find that we actively seek out what we want to change in our lives from an external source. And through my journey and through my experience, I've recognized the importance of self reflection and the deep inner work that requires you to transform and change an identity of self. And once that happens, there are some major things that happen in life, and purely based on the fact that it's a personal self transformation that you actually engage in. So yeah, that's where I've started, and that's where I am still, and it's 25 years later.
Beautiful. Thank you for all that you're doing. It's amazing. Okay, so let's begin first by talking about your book. All right. So, what is it about your book, The Future of Work is Human? Can you talk to us about your book? And let us talk about, firstly, the inspiration. What inspired you to write the book? And how did you come about that captivating title?
So the book actually originates from a very obvious position that the whole world was faced with, and that was in COVID. And part of what I study and part of what I'm fascinated by is human behavior. Now, when we went into COVID, we went from going through life like we would usually, and suddenly we went from our day to day into a home environment where you had to stay home, you were locked up, and you didn't have anywhere to go. And for humans, this is incredibly challenging for us to be able to go through from having freedom to generally go where we want to being confined. And from a human behavior's perspective, that's not usual behavior. And my immediate observation was, how did we get an entire planet to go from working with people, engaged with people all the time, to secluded? And yet we managed to do it. So that begged the question was, what does that mean, and what is changing in humans, and how is it possible that we did it so quickly? And so, because we were forced to do it. And I started investigating and started looking at what, the publications of human behavior and what are some of the core critical skills that we will need for the future of work. Because if work was changing from in person to remote, what did that mean? And my investigation led me to a study that was done by a professor in Belgium called Walter van der Velde. And his study showed and showcased some of the core critical skills that we would need for the future of work. And some of those core critical skills, and this is what the book is based upon, is what are those critical skills and what are we avoiding, and what are the things that we need to start paying attention to. And what we need to start paying attention to is 5 critical skills that can actually help the future of work. And that is creativity, critical thinking, social intelligence, self-management, and attention management. And when you see those 5 critical skills as core competencies within an environment, within your day-to-day environment, whether you're running a business, whether you're running a team, whether you're working with people, those 5 critical skills will emphasize and impact the future of how we do business. And the reason why I wanted it to be called The Future of Work is because since COVID and some time before that, the AI revolution was at the forefront of everyone's tongues and conversation. And in my head, because I study human behavior, and I'm so fascinated by it. What we're missing, and the important part and the message of this, is we often think that AI is literally going to solve everything. And, humans are suddenly, I don't know, it's like we're missing that the part that, what's going to happen to the human beings? What is the human intelligence going to be like versus the AI intelligence? And nobody's really talking about it. So, the reason why I wanted to bring significant attention to the future of work as human is because a lot of what we go through and a lot of business that we'll have in the future will not specifically be based in AI, but quite specifically based in relationships. So we have this idea that, humans are somehow going to disappear, and we're not going to disappear. AI will alleviate and do a lot of mundane, a lot of task-orientated administrative stuff that we don't want to do. And it will help us think quicker and faster and get information faster and quicker. But it simply doesn't take away the human connection that you and I are having in this conversation right now, and really sharing information and probing questions and thinking through information. There's a connection of humanity that is simply not going away. It can't be ignored. And there's evidence to show that people are trying to replace humans and have the intelligence of humans. But there's a sentience and there's a being that cannot be replaced by AI. And I'm happy to, go down that journey and investigate if anyone ever does. But I'm still yet to find the obvious replacement for human beings. So as much as AI is going to do a lot for us, what's going to happen with human intelligence?
Beautiful.
And that's where it comes from.
Beautiful. Got it. And that sounds like a very powerful book. I think everyone needs to read that book. And thank you for putting that stuff together. I appreciate that. And you see, I've always had this thought about this AI stuff, Because seeing different comments as to it's taking away people's job and taking over and all of these things, you see, I believe that's not completely true. Just like you mentioned now. Yeah, it could do all of the administrative tasks, but it cannot connect like humans will. You know, when we're together vibing and having these discussions, there are things AI cannot do. And like you mentioned, like the relationship aspect, that communication and all of those stuffs, and that's very correct. So can you talk to us about wings?
Yeah, so the wings in itself is the model that was created by Dr. Walter van der Velde. And part of that, the wings acronym speaks to the work industry neutral growth skills. And essentially, that's part of the skill set that we will need is those 5 critical skills that we mentioned earlier. It's just boiled down to, it's broken down into the work industry neutral growth skills. And if we look at what the acronym stands for, it's a good reminder of what those critical core skills are. And when you have those critical skills, it helps you with, creating the critical skills that you will need for the future. And that's where the wings actually comes from.
Wow, got that. That's a beautiful one. Okay, what about contagious identity? What does it mean?
So Contagious Identity is, it's the next book that I'm currently working on.
Really?
And so the Contagious Identity is, I've been fortunate to work in an environment where I work with a lot of leaders, and we take them through a rigorous process, and in different programs, different facets and modules and modalities that we cover. And what I started noticing was there was something tangible or intangible rather, that you started noticing that there was this transformation of people where they started out on a program and going through a scenario and a program, or at least part of this project. And as we went through it, just in the last 5 years, there's been an evolution of change happening. Through this evolution of change, you start noticing there's a certain authenticity that's tied into that. There's a confidence that starts arising. There's a quiet authority that starts playing at the forefront. And as we've been doing these
Beautiful. That's amazing. Okay, to bring this to an end, Kevin, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those who would like to reach out to you, learn more about everything we've discussed, or even purchase your book, how can that be possible? You can impact your life more than you think. Beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, Kevin. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this stuff with us, man. It means a whole lot. Short and sweet and filled with lots of invaluable insight. Thank you, man.